grabbing at straws to try to criticize what we have. Now, once we've completed going through that, and I don't know how long it's going to take me to go through it, we'll continue on with the history of the New Testament church as it goes into the Philadelphia age from there. So I'm going to stop there for this morning. Any questions or comments or anything? Like I say, I will get those 5 lists of 7s in relation to the preservation of God's Word for you on a handout for next week. Yes, sister?
What does it mean, universal language?
The universal language of the world, okay, let me...
It doesn't mean that everybody speaks that language, so.
No, but, okay, Hebrew was the first one. That was the original language.
Yeah.
That is the language of God. That's what everybody spoke until God confounded the languages at the Tower of Babel. Okay? The languages after this are all Gentile languages, and they were the Gentile power that ruled the known world at the time. So it was the official language of that empire. The Assyrian language, then the Babylonian.
Whoever rules the world, whatever language they
Correct.
have.
You know, you would still have your local languages and so forth. Okay, as far as for today, for example, okay, English is the most common second language in the world. The reason for that is English is the language of business. It is the language, international language of the monetary systems, transportation, science.
What do you mean second language?
Okay, for example, you know, you go, you know, the United States is really bad when it comes to this about people learning other languages. You know, I can go just about anywhere in the world and I'm going to find somebody that can speak to me in English.
Yeah.
Because it is
That's just the most prevalent.
Well, again, where it is the international language of just about everything else that goes on. You know, for years they said, oh, it's going to be Japanese, and you know, a bunch of people learning to speak Japanese. That fell through. You know, then it was Chinese, and that fell. You know, English is, you know, outside of countries where it's the primary language. Okay, I mean, I can go anywhere in Europe and can communicate. I mean, most people in Europe know at least 3 languages. One of them will be English.
Oh.
You know? We're bad about that here in this country.
Canada has 2. It used to be mandatory up to.
Yeah.
In Canada, it still is not.
Yeah. Yeah. In Canada, yes, you're going to learn French. You know, I mean, usually if you live in Quebec, you're growing up with French and learning English. You know, but every place else. But I mean, you can go anywhere and speak English. You can go Central South America even. And in at least your metropolitan areas, you're not going to have a problem. You know, the universal language of the world is English. In the time of these countries, where these nations were in control, Assyrian, Babylonian, Persian, Greek, Latin, which is Roman, and then English. Those were, I mean, we still had, you know, we could learn Latin in school when I was in school. And during the 1700s, 1800s, even the early 1900s, you weren't considered well educated if you didn't know Latin. You know, Latin is still used a lot in science and medicine. But you go, let's say you go to an international conference of anything. Guess what the language is going to be? English. The UN, English. You know, if you're an airline pilot, I don't care where you're coming from in the world. You're an international airline pilot. You got to speak English. All your air controls, everything, that's all English. Shipping, English. Like I say, monetary system, English, business, English. English is the universal, the international language of the last days. It's a Gentile language. Guess what the international language will be when Christ sets up his kingdom? Hebrew. It's going back to the original language. So bone up on your Yiddish. Oy vey. Right? But that's what I mean by that. You know, when the Assyrians were in power, if they had to send out any official documentation, it was in the Syrian language. You know, same thing with Babylon, Persia, Greeks. You know, in Rome, you know, Latin was the language of the government. Greek was the language of the educated people, and then whatever the local language was in Rome. You know, the Latin was the. That's why when Christ was crucified, okay, and the sign that Pilate had put up over his head was in Latin, in Greek, and in Hebrew. You had Latin, that was the language of the empire. Greek was the language of the educated people, and Hebrew was the local language. And that's why it was done that way. So, you know, that's what we refer to as the universal language. That's, okay, the language of the powers that be. Okay, now today, the known world is the entire known world. I mean, obviously in the time of, let's say, Persia, okay, people living in the Far East didn't know Persian necessarily, or other places, the Inuit didn't know, you know, this type of a thing. But the known world, okay, as far as where there was the Gentile power that ruled the known world, that was the universal language. Today, the known world is there isn't any place you can go that isn't known. And so, you know, as time went on and expanded, you know, what's the known world, like the map we have back there where our missionaries are pinpointed, you know, I mean, any place we got missionaries, we can go there, they can speak English in those countries. It may not be the primary language, but you can get by there. You know, it's usually good to learn the local language, you know, but, you know, like in Papua New Guinea, the official local language is called Pidgin, and it's a perverted English, you know, that they learn. They still have the tribal local languages, but, you know, you go to Kiev, there in the Ukraine, the official language is Russian, okay? But you're not going to have a hard time going there and finding somebody who can speak English. You know, I talk a lot of times about the friend I had at Lowe's for quite a while there, Tony, who was from the Czech Republic. You know, he spoke Czech, he spoke Polish, he spoke German, he spoke some Russian, and he spoke English. 5 languages. Yeah, I say that's why the world looks at us as a bunch of dummies. You know, I mean, where you know the Laurie family originated in Europe, where France, Belgium, and all these countries all come together. People there usually speak French, German, and Dutch, you know, or some other, you know, that's normal there in Europe for that to be that way. Any other questions? All right. Let's take some prayer requests.